Welcome to the weekly meeting of the Tacoma-Pierce County Coalition to End Homelessness. It looks like we have about 31 folks in the room. So, Rosemary, would you like to get us kicked off?
Good morning, Rob, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to our open table, where we learn from one another with respect and act to end homelessness in Pierce County. We acknowledge our debt to the continuing shepherding of this land and water by the native peoples of the Salish Sea, especially the Puyallup tribe of Indians. We call ourselves to listen to and uplift the voices and experiences of the indigenous peoples of this land and beyond. Today, I also acknowledge the important cultural events taking place during the Paddle to Elwha 2025 canoe journey, with the final landing yesterday at the mouth of the Elwha River near Port Angeles. This marks a sacred voyage taken by tribal families living on the Salish Sea, hosted this year by the Lower Elwha Clallam tribe, and involving many host communities along the way. Over the next 5 days, there will be gathering of all for cultural protocols, ceremonies, rest, and good food. Celebrating the removal of dams and reclamation of the river, this year's journey was challenged by a tanker truck petroleum spill on July 18th on the Elwha River at Indian Creek near Port Angeles that spilled nearly 3,000 gallons of gas into the river, as well as 172 gallons of diesel, and killed at least 2,000 fish. In their historical role as stewards, the Lower Elwha tribe is deeply involved in the response and monitoring. The canoe journey marks their resilience and unity in the face of such challenges. This week, I was introduced to the work of stand-up comedian Josh Johnson, a remarkably accessible speaker who's been active as a performer and writer for some years, recently on The Daily Show. In the YouTube video I stumbled upon, Johnson started his set with a simple but profound realization he had as a 6-year-old child, that his teacher, whom he only saw at school, was more than a teacher, that she was other things too, and wasn't always at school. Johnson took the audience on an hilarious ride through a child's musings when seeing the teacher in a grocery store and being shocked that she had a house and bought groceries. Johnson used this opening to paint other pictures of complex personhood, arriving finally at his critique of the current U.S. president and calling out less admirable aspects of personhood. This whole monologue set me to thinking more about what it means to be seen as a whole person, and how little space is given to those without houses to be more than a stereotype, or in some cases, treated as someone with a single identity that justifies either an eligibility or a denial. Excuse me. We saw that powerfully in the Invisible People video clip we watched last week, and in the sections we didn't see, those being interviewed noted how little basic respect they received from law enforcement, as if their very selves, as well as their possessions, were unwanted garbage, and deserving of no more than 5 minutes' notice of an encampment sweep. That video was focused on Louisville, Kentucky, but all of us have heard similar reports, witnessed such interactions, or experienced being boxed into one aspect of ourselves, however true that aspect is. I'm more than that, we insist, sometimes feeling we're shouting into the wind, and then we wonder how much space we are giving others to show different aspects of themselves. What kind of surprising stories might we share if we wondered more about the life of someone whose experience feels so different from ours, who's trying our patience or is making choices that appear self-defeating? Most faith traditions make claims about how to become our best person or self, though some question the reality of a self at all, and some social science theories question the notion of a whole person at all, preferring to think of humans as performing different roles or wearing different masks. I prefer to imagine the possibilities suggested by Walt Whitman's short self-description in his poem Song of Myself 51. He says, "The past and the present wilt. I have filled them, empty them, and proceed to fill my next fold of the future. Do I contradict myself? Very well then, I contradict myself. I am large. I contain multitudes." When we think about our own contradictions as a resource for understanding others, we might consider how these multitudes can support creative action, respect, and deeper human connection. Welcome today to this work. Well, welcome everyone, and to our space together. And this is a time where for new folks, we encourage people to say hello, not to describe their work that they're doing in any detail, but let us know who you are, and we can put that in the chat if you would like to hear would you like us to hear about your work? And we can schedule a time for you to come and actually explain it to us. So I'm not sure Teresa's here today, but you can put your information in the chat and we'll check back with you to schedule something. In terms of our work together, we ask that people keep themselves on mute when they're not speaking. Use the raised hand function when you're wanting to be recognized to speak. And then turn off your video if you're doing something that might be distracting. We use the chat for conversation and asking questions, so it's not at all disrespectful to use that very deeply, and have side conversations going on during the meeting is fine. I think Rob has put the norms we usually mention in the chat, so you can look at those. And now if there's anyone who wants to just say hello, raise your hand or wave your hand, and we'll be happy to greet you and move on then.
Hi, Liza, go ahead.
I have been on in the meeting before, but I just wanted to say hello because I'm not a regular participant. My name is Liza Burrell. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm with a consulting firm called Uncommon Bridges, and we are supporting the Unified Regional Approach to Homelessness project in Pierce County.
Welcome, Liza, and thank you for your work. So just for anyone else who might have a hard time getting into this speaking place, or maybe you're on a phone or something, if you want to put your information in the chat, if you're interested in some resources that you've come here to learn about, put that in there and someone will be responding, because we're pretty good at doing that. So Rob, I'll turn it back to you.
All right. Thank you, Rosemary, so much for a thoughtful opening to this week's meeting, as always. Sarah, I see you have your hand up.
Can you hear me okay, Rob?
I can, yeah.
I am never going to get away from the jinx of a microphone. Oh well, I'll get over it. This one's a lot better though, because I can figure it out. As I wrote in the chat, I'm only going to be here for the first hour, and I got Jared's email last night. I would like to meet with them at some point in time, and I know there's at least one more person going to be there. Maybe we could set up an appointment. I do have a job developer, but that's not why I want to meet with them. I want to either volunteer or work in some compassion and some position to try to assist them, because that's why I'm here.
Well, Garrett's on the call, and I'm sure if Garrett doesn't have your email address, I can send it over, and so you two can get in touch.
Yep,
Yeah,
I'll connect up, Sarah.
Yeah, I forwarded. Have you worked with James Chaye before? Chaye? I'm sorry, I have trouble pronouncing it.
No.
Anyway,
but
he's
I'll
really
reach out
nice.
and we can connect up.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm gonna have to leave right in the middle of your guys' presentation. I apologize for that.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks.
All right, so let's shift over to the first thing we do at every week's meeting after our introduction is talk a little bit about what people are seeing changing on the streets across Pierce County this week. This is an opportunity for folks who are doing outreach and individuals who are supporting our community to share what they're seeing, how enforcement changes might be impacting the community. And the one caveat that I want to bring up, as always, is please don't share the exact location of a area of concern. We do not want to inadvertently cause more enforcement to be targeted on a particular community because we mention it here. So just keep that in mind. And let's get started. I see Sally has her hand up.
Yes, so the Hilltop has been re-designated as an emphasis area. Most of the Hilltop has, for the attentions of the HEAL team. So, and the city has not really given a very good description of what the new processes are. So it's not clear how frequently sweeps will continue to happen. yesterday there were some areas that were visited by city people and police. This morning there was confusion about what that was all about. One group of people said that all they were doing was helping clean up, and another group said they took clothes and hygiene supplies and shoes and everything. So I've written to Caleb to ask him to clarify what the city is doing with this so we can tell people what to expect. But it's very disconcerting, to be honest, as somebody who is trying to help people in the Hilltop, to have a continued overemphasis, I would call it targeting if I were in a bad mood, by the city to the Hilltop. And the people there don't deserve that. They deserve help, and they deserve the kind of help that's actually relevant to what's going on with them and their circumstances. And giving them more heal team is, in my opinion, not going to do that. So anyway, that's what's going on. If you are helping people in the Hilltop, be aware they may be moving around, and they may be really confused about what their status is and what's going to happen to them. So that's the report. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sally, for your letter to council members that you sent earlier this week. And yeah, it unfortunately doubling down on poor policy just is not going to improve the outcomes for people who are in need of help there in the Hilltop or elsewhere around the county. So thanks for raising that up. Anyone else want to share what they're seeing in terms of changes in the neighborhood? And any particular needs that maybe the 64 of us in this room might be able to help address. I will share that in my movements around my neighborhood, I'm definitely seeing an increase in the number of people who are unhoused, especially along Division Avenue and areas just to the north of there. And that is likely because of the ongoing pressure on folks in the Hilltop. So, displacement being what's happening there. Shalana, I see your hand up. And you're unmuted, but we can't hear you right now. It's possible you have an issue with your microphone. All right, so while Shalana figures that out, why don't we kind of go around the community and see if there's been any particular changes that people want to raise up. Jason, I see your camera on. How are things in Lakewood? Of course, I put you on the spot. Sorry.
Things are pretty average in Lakewood of what they've been. I think we're seeing in our hygiene center though a few more people coming in, and that might be just because people are getting used to it. But there are some, I won't give the location, but some parks around our neighborhood that are seeing, I think, an increased number of people hanging out there during the days.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I'm noticing comments from Daniel and Jan in the chat that reflect what I'm seeing as well. Gerald, I see your hand up.
All right, good morning, everyone. Yeah, I do have an announcement with a change in our community. Yesterday was the last day for those of you who are familiar with the Freedom Project. We closed the doors yesterday. For those who are unfamiliar, that's our tiny home project. So, yeah, kind of bittersweet. So the Freedom Project is no longer open. We will still be operating through our normal services, but that reduces the food. So we'll be doing things by appointment only because that contract that went with the Freedom Project carried out security, our cooks, our food, and our case navigator that ran that project. So it's a little tough to make that announcement because now we got to figure out where folks are going to go. 5 shelters closing, but we're still going to get the same quality of services we've always given. And Ride Center itself is still functioning. It seems to have come down to what seems to be operational costs. I I do say Caleb and his team, they worked with us really hard. They worked with us really well over the years we've had these, so I thank them for that. But it comes down to the same confusion every time for me. It's the same confusion for me. You know, I watch a ribbon cutting ceremony and we're closing in the Hilltop. It makes zero sense to me and say we have no operational dollars. We did everything we could to keep it open. One of the concerns that started out was that the owner of the property was going to start building on the property. So I made every effort I could to make sure he didn't do that. So I put an offer in to buy the property, and the bank approved it, and we were going to buy the property. But now we have another piece of property over on East Portland Avenue. We were going to move there, but the city doesn't have the funds for us to move them there. So we're in the process of trying to raise the funds ourselves to figure if we can move them over there and to get them operational. So it's really confusing to me because they won't move them there even though we have the property secured. The most troubling thing for me is that rather than moving to Portland Avenue, they have to be moved to a landfill. And so it causes me to say, okay, I don't understand how we spending dollars. I don't understand where the dollars are going. It makes zero sense to me. Maybe that's just, I'm still 7 years into this work, but I've learned a lot in this work, as a 30-year military veteran. I'm like, man, we have to make logical sense of this, and we have to put people first. And I'm more careful with my words and a little hesitant now because I really heard what Rosemary opened up with. And that touched me a lot more. Did we really think about the people we serve throughout the process, throughout the money spending, throughout who we give the service to, who gives the service, how the service is given, right? So I really appreciate you opening up with that, Rosemary. And it really touched me really deeply, right? Because I'm sitting here, as most of you know, we're expanding work in Spokane. And I'm watching Spokane sit down and have conversations with me saying, how can we spend these dollars better than we've done before? How does the work that you're doing over here going to help folks here? And we're in these conversations trying to figure that out. But I'm watching dollars go that way, and it just doesn't make sense to me. So I just wanted to give that announcement to everyone that it is closed. So you will see with the closing of the Nativity House during the day, TRM, the services that they don't provide, the food service that we provide to the community, it's going to put a big flux back on the street. So thank you for this moment.
Yeah, Gerald, thank you for sharing that painful update. Yeah, it does feel like we do a good thing for a period of time and then inexplicably just cut it off at the knees. Thank you for all that you're continuing to do. And that global view is really important to understand why we're going to see more folks on the street during the day, downtown and in the Hilltop, because the services are no longer available. So thank you. Anyone else with updates? And I am seeing, Carrie, your updates in the chat and others. Thank you so much for keeping that conversation going as well. All right, final call for updates from the streets before we move on to a short partner spotlight. All right, excuse me. Next, speaking of tiny home villages and something positive happening in the community, I want to invite John Brown from LIHI to share an update about Kingfisher Village. Go ahead, John.
Oh, so first of all, can everybody hear me pretty good?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, just want to make sure. So the first thing, I just want to say thank you to the coalition for the years of support. I remember when we first did the first TIMS, and you guys have always been super supportive. So I just wanted to first say that. As some of you are aware, we did open up Kingfisher Village last Wednesday on the 23rd. It was a great opening. We had a lot of good support there, which was super great. So again, thank you to all of you that did attend and just all of you that have been supporting over the years. So the location of Kingfisher, it is located on 84th Street. If anybody's familiar with the Hosmer area, that's actually directly behind the center with the subway and around the Latitude 84, directly behind it. We do have 60 tiny houses there. It also comes with a washer and a dryer. We also have 8 full restrooms, including ADA restrooms. And inside of the restrooms, we also do have the full showers. We also will be having 24-hour staff. We do have the 2 case managers to help individuals that are moving in to the site to get into permanent housing. And then also we are doing meals there as well. And this has been a team partnership with LIHI, which is again the Low Income Housing Institute, and then also Pierce County, and then also with Commerce as well. And this is specifically to help individuals that are on rights of way and then also encampments. So what we're doing is that we meet weekly with also the Pierce County and also with Commerce, and then looking at sites that they want to have come down, and then have an option for those individuals to come into the site. We're super excited about it, and I know there's probably a lot of questions. So what I'll do is I'll make sure to put my email in the chat. So if anybody has any questions, to let me know. Usually I have my LIHI logo behind me, but today I wanted to show one of our tiny houses. I'm super happy about this because if you look up top, we actually have AC in all the units this year, which is super great. And we've been doing tiny houses for a long time, and these are the first tiny houses that have AC in them on the south end. And I'm super excited for those of you that did come. I mean, it feels like you're in a nice, cool store, I would say, right? You guys all know when it's hot outside, you go in like a room that has AC and you're like, ooh, this feels good. Like it was really good. So I just definitely wanted to highlight that we're super excited that all of the units come with AC. As you guys know, we've had a hot summer. We will continue to have some heat, but at least we know that the clients will be able to stay cool. And then as well, they will also be able to stay hot as we have a heater inside as well. With the welcome baskets, if you can kind of see up top that area, and then the hangers for them to hang their clothes and things of that nature. So we're super excited. At this moment in time, we did already move in 27 clients at this moment. We do have 33 units open, and we are working with, again, Pierce County and also Commerce to go ahead and get those units filled. We're definitely not taking our time. And when I say taking our time, we understand that there are individuals that need to be housed, right? And our goal is to bring them in as respectfully and as fast as we can to get those units filled. And we're super excited. And we also made sure to join the HBA, which is the Hosmer Business Association. And one of the things we wanted to do is we didn't want to just, one thing we try to do is we want to make sure that these sites are good for the community, right? So we attended the HBA, which is the Hosmer Business Association. We actually joined it, so it meets monthly, so we can talk about how Hosmer is growing, and how it's doing, and how we can be a positive impact to the Hosmer area. And again, the long-term goal for this site, a couple years down the line, is actually to build affordable housing there as well, right? So we're looking at the big picture is that we're able to get individuals off the street, and at the same time projecting out, it's going to be affordable housing in a good place, right? So that's what we're looking for, the big picture goal. I don't want to take up too much time. I just wanted to again say thank you for all of the years of support. We are super excited for the village. We thank you for everybody that was able to attend. I will also put my email in the chat unless there's any questions that I can answer at this moment in time. Other than that, I greatly appreciate it.
Well, John, I do see a question from Megan in the chat about how folks access these tiny homes, and I think you kind of addressed that. It's related to the right-of-way projects that are chosen by the state, but is that kind of the answer?
Yes, that is the answer. Yes.
Yeah. All right. And are the units?
Can I just follow up to that question?
Sure.
That was my question. Sorry. So, if I have clients that are, would be potential fits for this program, I myself can't refer them, right? That's just kind of the roadblock we have with all the right of way shelter areas is finding out how to get my clients who might be eligible for these to talk to someone or in contact with somebody about getting in.
Yes, so that is definitely there are no referrals.
Okay.
It is specific, so no referrals.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I think the easiest way to understand the right-of-way program is that the local agencies that are involved, the county, the city of Tacoma, and the state, determine a location, and then people who are at that location when they go out and build a list of names are those who are eligible to get into the different sites. So that's kind of the easiest way, at least in my head, that I try to keep track of it. Dr. Jarvie, did I see your hand up earlier?
Yeah, I did have a question. Had a couple questions, but by the answer to the previous question, I assume that it's useless if I can't refer people or there. So my question was about time limits and how to access it. But if it's only the right-of-way project people, then it's not really a very practical resource for us. So no, I don't have a question anymore.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for John? So John, just one other question that I have. So the folks who will be served at this site, is it single individuals? Is it male and female? What's the
So
mix?
it is male and female, singles and couples.
Okay, great. And I saw the news story this morning in the Tribune regarding the next project that is being worked on in the Spanaway area, that the county changed its zoning regulations so that that tiny home project could move forward. Um, and if I remember right, I think Sharon said in the article that that was going to be 30 or 40 units.
Yes, that is going to be, we already do have the land. This is something that we were trying to put into play last year, but we had a couple roadblocks. But this is the next phase for us as far as the next project would be the Spanaway area.
Got it. Well, more about that as it comes closer to opening. And I do urge folks, if you have access to the News Tribune, there's a story about that site coming up as well. So just thought I would mention it since it's related.
No, thank you very much. And then
yeah.
I'll put my my email in the chat. And then again, once again, I appreciate it. And thank you very much for your time, everybody.
Yeah. And I see Larry has his hand up. Larry, why don't you get your question in?
Thank you. Since this is a right-of-way site, who's tracking the data? Where is there a report about how full it is, what the turnover rate is, who's feeding it, what happened to those people? Where do we see what happened?
Oh, so this is all being tracked through very different programs. One of them we use would be HMIS, which is the Homeless Management Information System. And then again, we do have the weekly meetings with both Commerce and then also the county, Pierce County. So all this information is being tracked. And again, for us just opening this Wednesday, we will be tracking everything from who comes in, how long they stay for, when do they go into permanent housing. This will all be tracked and this will all be given to Pierce County as well. So everything is going to be tracked on all different levels of who is coming, who will be going into permanent housing, how long will they be for. And again, this information is tracked at all of our sites just so we can see how that site is doing.
Nice.
And you muted. There you go.
It would be nice to see that data come out of the county so that we could see it.
Okay.
That's taxpayer money going into that high visibility project with no understanding of how effective it is, what the turnover rates are, and how successful it is in moving people on to permanent housing.
Yeah, and I see Devin came on screen. Maybe there's an opportunity to figure out ways to daylight that information, other than I mentioned in the chat that the Department of Commerce at the state level does produce periodic reports about the program overall. I'd have to dig that up on their website, but I do know that that is being done because it's been outlined in local media reports, especially when the state legislature was deciding on funding for maintaining the right-of-way program. Anything you would add, Devin?
Yeah, I would just say that we report monthly to the state and they do update their websites monthly, according to the most recent information that I've received from Commerce. So you can see that information, Larry. I am not opposed to creating some type of a report for this group, but interestingly enough, I was looking at data, and you should be able to find this online as well, Larry, but I was looking at information online today, or in our reporting today, and because we just housed a large number of people through the road program coming from Wiley Avenue, which is a very busy right-of-way. Half is WSDOT and half is City of Tacoma. It was 13 people that went into Kingfisher, so I would consider that a huge success for people living in really dangerous settings in Pierce County. But I was looking at the data, and over 300 people have accepted housing through the right-of-way program since its inception. Not all of those people are still in their original locations, but that's how many folks accepted the offer of housing. That was 18 sites total, so 18 encampment sites that were identified and 300 people.
Thanks, that's appreciate it. I wonder if you could, in the chat, give us the link to the website where we can see those monthly reports.
Sure, yep.
That'd be awesome, Devin. Thank you. All right. Well, that was a great conversation. Let's shift over now to, we're going to spend the next hour or so digging into something really meaty, and I'll rather than my characterizing it badly, I'm going to hand the reins over to Garrett and Dr. Green to talk about coordinated entry.
Thanks, Rob. Glad to be here. Thanks for making time. I think Dr. Green, excellent. Lamont's got some slides for us. He hates it when we say Dr. Green,
I know.
but he's
Sorry
got a
about that, Lamont.
PhD for heaven's sake. I'm here with the Lived Experience Coalition, and we are launching officially our coordinated entry assessment project. So the goal is to make coordinated entry better. The goal is to get more people off of the streets into housing. And by taking a look at how coordinated entry works, we are trying to figure out if there's ways we can make it perform better. I got a couple polls for us today, and we've got some stuff to share with you, but mostly we're interested in listening. But I'm going to do a really quick poll, which we've done a gazillion times, but it's who's in the room. And so while we're doing that, I think I'm going to... We move to the next slide. See, I'm terrible at doing these slides, Lamont. What's our... Oh, now we're way too far. All right. I guess I'll do our team. So our team is... So this is a contract with the Lived Experience Coalition. And on the Lived Experience Coalition, we've got Lamont Green. And if you've never met Lamont, you're missing out. He's been working on homelessness in Pierce County a long time. And he's also got some amazing experience in other places. Currently works for a consulting firm working on homelessness. And so he brings a lot of national expertise and local knowledge. What more could you ask for? Courtney Love's not here today because she's on vacation. Yay, Courtney. Lived Experience Coalition, longtime member of our coalition. If you don't know Courtney, then you're not paying attention. This is collaborative work. And so I feel like all of you are on our team too, but especially the county. And this is something the county has had a lot of ownership over in the past, coordinated entry. And so Devin Isaacson is on our team as well. And let's see, as soon as we've got this poll, I'm going to call the poll done. And I'm just going to show you who's in the room, which is, we've got a lot of volunteers. About a quarter of us are volunteering. 13% with lived experience, which is always great. That's nice. We've got advocates. We've got government employees, a lot of nonprofit employees, general community members, shelter providers. Always enjoy the fact that this is such a slice of life. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Devin to talk a little bit about what we're trying to accomplish with this contract. If Devin's still in the room, we're totally
Yes,
didn't mention to
I'm
Devin.
negotiating technology. Give me just 1 second here.
Great.
To resettle everything. Okay, so thank you, everyone, and good morning again. So we have a lot of objectives for this program. I just want to say before I run through this list, I am very excited for this project, and I'm very excited to be working with Lamont and Garrett and Courtney. We have some really great energy around this and some incredible knowledge and expertise. So this is going to be incredible, and I think we're going to do some really amazing things. So first step is we are going to be evaluating the current coordinated entry system, right? We're going to be looking at things like our strengths, our weaknesses, and then gaps in the framework. It's really an opportunity. And I will also say 2015 was the last time we did a really deep dive into our coordinated entry system and made changes. So it's been a little bit of time, and I think it's definitely timely for us to be looking at it now. Working on an improvement strategy, so developing a prioritized action plan. I would say that this is really where the rubber's going to hit the road in terms of what those activities or actions are going to be. We already have some incredible ideas, and those will be sort of trickling out to the community, maybe even in this presentation. I'm not sure if Garrett's sharing that yet. And then implementation. So this is not just a project for a report. This is a project for implementation of changes. So in the 12-month period of this project, we will actually be changing things. We won't just be producing a report which says this is what we found. I think that's key to any project is the implementation. And then lastly, and most important, is how do we sustain it? How do we keep the continued work going and also have a future plan to evaluate again? And I will just say that because of the nature of this project, it's going to move pretty quickly. And I know that Garrett, Lamont, Dr. Green, and Courtney are committed to sharing this out and collecting feedback from the community.
Thank you, Devin. It is so great to be with the Pierce County family and to see so many familiar faces and names. And so this is home. So I really appreciate the opportunity to work on this project too. I remember decades ago, I came to Washington State as a veteran experiencing homelessness and drug addiction and was at American Lake. And so my journey of recovery out of homelessness was right here in Tacoma Pierce County. So this is a very kind of special full circle. And the approach that we're using to all of this work, like Garrett highlighted, coordinated entry is very large, very complex, and requires community buy-in. It requires all of us. And so we're not having this kind of top-down approach or consultant knows best approach. So we're using community-centered design. And community-centered design, much like human-centered design, is a unique creative problem-solving process where solutions are co-designed with communities most impacted. That's people with lived experience, frontline providers, advocates, system partners, elected officials, all of us. And it's very much in the spirit of what Rosemary and Gerald mentioned earlier about putting people first. We know that those closest to the problem, our frontline providers, advocates, people with lived experience, are also closest to the solutions. And so I'm not going to go into in-depth detail, but I just wanted to highlight that our approach is community-centered design, and we want you all to be a part of that. So this isn't our one-time visit here, but we'll be visiting multiple times to get your input so that we can design this and have a really powerful coordinated entry system together. And so with that, I'm going to pass it over to Mr. Garrett because some folks might not know what is coordinated entry. And so we wanted to kind of have a baseline. So Garrett.
Cool. Yeah, a little level setting. So coordinated entry. It is the front door to our homeless system. So before coordinated entry, if you became homeless in Pierce County, you needed to call up every different provider and check if they had any openings in any of their programs. And that was the case in almost every community across the country. And there were some other things that preceded coordinated entry, but you get what I mean. And coordinated entry's goal was to be a single front door. So people experiencing homelessness didn't have the hassle of navigating all of these places, only to be rejected by each and every one of them. And so coordinated entry had that as the core idea. It's lots of things have grown over time since then. And in our community, we have an unusual twist in it, and that coordinated entry is also a housing program. So it's not just getting access to, and really it's our two big programs. It's rapid rehousing across the community, right? And which is covering your rent for a year while you figure out how to be self-sufficient. And the second one is permanent supportive housing, right? Which is the golden ticket, right? Housing for the rest of your life because you need both the subsidy and case management to remain housed. But in our community, we also add something we call diversion. It's called rapid resolution, other places, lots of names actually. And that is one-time financial assistance to exit homelessness. And diversion's goal isn't permanent housing. I mean, it is permanent housing, but we consider within diversion, even an exit to temporary housing is better than being on the streets, right? We have very limited resources in our rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing programs. And so just getting you reconnected with an aunt and helping you get to her house to live even temporarily is considered a win in coordinated entry. Obviously, permanent supportive housing is the goal. So I always call it the airport. So coordinated entry is the airport, and we want to build a better airport. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean adding more airplanes, right? So airplanes being your pathway to permanent housing, rapid rehousing, and permanent supportive housing. So one of the big complaints I hear about coordinated entry is that I do coordinated entry and I don't get nothing. And that is true for a lot of people. And that's, I would say, not a problem with coordinated entry. That's a problem with not having enough funding for the deeper interventions that people need in order to successfully exit homelessness. I didn't even look what any of the words said on the slide. Is this me too? Oh boy. So in 2018, the results of like the last time we had any look, and this is really just looking at our prioritization tool, which is a mechanism within coordinated entry that prioritizes. So in HUD land, coordinated entry has 4 parts. It has, is that 4 parts? I'm not going to remember. It has assessment, right, where we identify somebody, right, and then we learn about them. And then the next step is prioritization, right, which is that we kind of have a world of not enough resources, and so coordinated entry is also used as a tool to make sure that the limited resources we have go to the people that need them the most, which means highest barriers to housing or most vulnerable, right? So if 2 people are in the room and one is pregnant and one is not pregnant, we want the housing intervention to go to the one that's pregnant, right? If 2 people are in the room and one is a sex offender and one is not a sex offender, we want the housing intervention to go to the sex offender because they have the highest barrier to housing, right? So that's the philosophy behind it. No judgment, barriers to housing, vulnerabilities. And so we set some goals as a community 7 years ago. That yeah, we can kind of read them. I didn't prep this slide at all. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I think that kind of covers it, right? Again, it's that highest set of needs is what we reserve our resources for. And again, and I throw the caveat in always, but our coordinated entry system also has this tool for people with like the least amount of need. That makes any sense, right? So if one-time assistance, and by one time we mean, right, we're going to cut a check to a landlord to help you move in, to a bus company to get you home to family, right? And it can be $500 or $600. It can be $1,000. It can be $3,000, right? If you've got the ability to sustain housing, but you can't get into it and a one-time assistance will happen, that can make that happen for you, then we will do that with coordinated entry. So this is my slide 2. It's in yellow now. we had someone fancy up our slides for us. So when we're looking at coordinated entry, this contract originally was, let's look at the prioritization machine, the tool that scores people and make sure that it's doing what we as a community want it to do. And since then, we've kind of expanded that because we don't think that's the only place that coordinated entry might be failing us a little bit. And so I don't mean our people are failing us, I mean the system is failing us. And so if we can make the system work better, we can be serving people better. So we're going to be looking at kind of the outreach, the front door. How do you get into coordinated entry? Are we failing people because they can't get to the front door, right? Are we open at the right times? Are we in the right locations, right? Or do we look safe enough for people to want to come and talk to us, right? I'm continually frustrated when you don't have a Latino Latina organization doing coordinated entry, right? I think that would remove some barriers people might have. So thinking about things like that in terms of the front door, and then looking at the assessment. Is the assessment asking the questions about vulnerability and barriers to housing in a way that is productive for us? Are we getting that information accurately from folks? And then does our prioritization tool do what we want in the community? Are the actually vulnerable people getting a referral? So my favorite example is someone can come and have almost none of our indicators of vulnerability, but they're schizophrenic. And so, right, they've got one barrier that causes a lot of problems. Are we, right, and right, are going to need some help being housed, right? Not everybody with schizophrenia needs help to remain housed, but some people do. And so sometimes one thing can be a barrier. And is our system sensitive enough to be able to help us with somebody that maybe even our scoring mechanism isn't working well for, right? So we're looking at that. So are we losing people to front door? Do we lose people when we do the assessment? Do we lose people when we score them? And then we have referrals. So so if an agency, I see agencies in this room right now, when you have an opening on one of your rapid rehousing programs and you need a referral, you go into the coordinated entry system and get the next most vulnerable high barrier household that meets your criteria. And then we try to get them housed, right? Well, that referral process oftentimes fails because we don't stay connected with people. And so are we losing people at referral? Do we get referrals, but they can't meet the criteria for the program? And so are we dropping them off and not getting them enrolled? Are they getting enrolled, but the services we provide aren't very effective, and so they're not able to exit to housing? Or are they exiting to housing but not able to stay housing, right? Are there ways that coordinated entry can help with those? So that's kind of all of these domains that we want to take a look at. And so that's a lot of you all providing us information about places that coordinated entry works well and that coordinated entry doesn't work well, or the parts coordinated entry touches. Oh my gosh, so many words, and I'm not even looking at chat. Do I have the next slide too?
Yes, and there's so much good information coming in the chat. I just wanted to say, you all keep pouring this information in the chat, keep sharing too out loud. We're going to be saving all of this to inform our work moving forward. So I just want to thank you all for everything that you're sharing. It's so important. And so I think the next one's me, Garrett. Garrett's a lot of fun to work with. So just to go really quickly over the timeline. So we are in phase one. We just got started in late May, early June. And so we're currently in the partner engagement and current systems review. So we've been doing partner mapping, looking at previous assessments and reports. We're going to be scheduling focus groups, interviews, one-on-one meetings, meeting with certain groups. And some of the key deliverables there is a partner map, system audit report. We're going to be evaluating the current assessment tool to make sure that it doesn't have any disparities. And we'll have a summary of some of the partner feedback. And so we're just collecting lots of information to find out, how's our community feeling about coordinated entry? What do they see as the pain points? And what are some of the things that they like? Because we don't want to change some of the things that there might be something that's working well. And so afterwards, we'll move into phase two. And that's the gap analysis and system evaluation. And in every part of this process, we're going to be coming back to you all. We're going to be checking in and saying, hey, this is what we found out. What do you all think? What's some more input that you have? So this group is going to be very critical along that process. And so in this gap analysis and system evaluation, this is where we will have that detailed analysis of where there are gaps, the evaluation of the coordinated entry system accessibility, efficiency, and other things. And we'll have a report with that and a recommendation for system improvement findings. And we'll have to workshop some of these recommendations, right? Because you could have awesome recommendations, but if you don't have buy-in, it's not going to work, right? And so we'll come back again to do some workshops on those recommendations. Phase 3 is the collaborative improvement design, and that's that part of the workshopping that I talked about, where we will workshop that together with all the key partners, frontline providers, people with lived experience, you all. And then phase 4 is where we move into the implementation and the system overhaul, where we then implement those strategies. And of course, you got to have continuous quality improvement. You can't just implement something and then disappear, right? You got to check and see how well are we doing? What are some tweaks that we need to make so we can make some nimble, real-time improvements to get to that sweet spot. And so you all, I put these slides in the chat as well, and I'm going to put it again here so people can kind of see along. Let me go to escape out of it because I see some people came on recently, and so paste that again. So these slides are in the chat for you. And so now we would like to shift to some of the partner engagement mapping so you all can see what this looks like overall. All right, so Devin is our government liaison, our Pierce County lead. So she's our lead with all of this. And I really love the way that Devin approaches this work. I used to work for Pierce County Human Services back in the day. I'm not going to throw shade or throw anyone under the bus, but I will say it's very refreshing when you have government leadership that's not taking a top-down approach, we know best, but a real community-centered servant leadership approach. And I really see Devin really leading in that way. So that's just really refreshing. And the COC, Coordinated Entry Committee, is going to be the accountability body for this work. So we will be working with them more frequently so that everything that's developed gets institutionalized within the COC in the system. And then we have our key drivers. And these are the critical partners to make this happen. And we have the full COC board, the Unified Regional Approach, which Liza is here representing today, the Implementation Advisory Board, and there's a lot of groups, right? There's the Coordinated Entry Process Improvement Group that I believe includes mostly, correct me if I'm wrong, Garrett, like more management level staff. And then there is a Coordinated Entry Collaborative that I believe is more frontline provider staff. And then there's the Common Good Lived Experience Collab, where people with lived experience are coming together. There's you all, the Pierce County Coalition to End Homelessness, the Human Services Coalition, the monthly VA case conferencing, the Permanent Supportive Housing Collaborative, the Rapid Rehousing Collaborative. Our housing authorities are really critical to this work. And then we need to have an approach that is, Pierce County is very large and diverse. We have urban, we have suburban, we have rural, and so we need to design a system that works for all of our Pierce County unhoused neighbors. And so the Gig Harbor Key Peninsula Coalition, and then also there's a youth work that's going to be starting soon or have started, but we also want to have great connection too with the youth work that's going on. Now later when we're going to ask you all for some feedback. So I want you all to think, what partners and key drivers are missing from this list that's critical for the success of coordinated entry? And so, oh, wonderful, Sally. Sally said key drivers, excellent. And I see Rob bringing some things in too. Now, coordinated entry is kind of a tricky thing, right? And our system partners, or what you all call adjacent partners, are very critical. Because we know in the homelessness system, usually when people end up in the homelessness system, it's due to multiple system failures. So how can we work with some of these other systems? How could we work and integrate service delivery and funding better with our school districts, with our medical systems? To give you all an example, Away Home Washington released a report, I think it was maybe 2 or 3, no, it's actually been longer than that, probably 4 or 5 years ago. And they discovered when we look at unaccompanied youth and young adult homelessness, we once thought that the leading indicator could have been foster care involvement or involvement in juvenile detention. What they discovered by looking at combing through tons of DSHS administrative data, it was an inpatient behavioral health stay. So imagine if we're working with our inpatient behavioral health organizations, right? And we have youth that are coming through and they can do screening much earlier. Now we're getting into prevention and reducing the risk of, youth becoming homeless and then getting older and into a chronic homelessness. And, the more entrenched you become into homelessness, the harder and harder it is, right? Um, and so these systems are really important. The fire department, FD cares, the behavioral health system, the public health system, the carceral legal system, DSHS, aging and disability services. That's another major one. Think about our permanent supportive housing programs, right? And so many of them are underfunded. And a lot of people have very complex, high acuity needs in our permanent supportive housing. And how could we get aging and disability services to provide some additional resources and support and braid that support into some of the permanent supportive housing so that we can increase retention rates in permanent supportive housing and decrease returns to homelessness? And then one of my favorite, workforce development. I actually learned a lot from this in Liza back in the day, uh, where we were developing projects, Liza and her team at Building Changes, to get workforce development to work in a more integrated fashion with homelessness. Because you know what? Some people, it's going to be getting a job or getting a job that pays a higher dollar amount that's going to get them out of homelessness before they get housing, right? And so we got to work with these systems. I learned this from Liza a long time ago. Some of these systems don't see our unhoused neighbors as being work ready and all of these other things, right? So the more we can integrate these different services while people are on the by names list, that might be the pathway out of housing before the housing actually shows up. And so there's a lot of good work that can be done that takes all of us. And then we have our frontline communities. And the frontline communities, these are communities that are right in the trenches. These are communities who um, their communities have a way high overrepresentation of people experiencing homelessness. We have the DV community, the Latina community, the Black community, the LGBTQ two spirit community, our disability community. We need to also have a lens. Oftentimes, our people in rural communities get forgotten. And so we need to have a lens there too. Our tribal community and our tribal nation here in Puyallup. Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders actually have the highest levels of homelessness, those that are previously incarcerated, and our youth and young adults. And so this is some of our partner mapping, and we want to hear from you all in the chat and out loud who's missing. Uh, and so what we're doing, we're having monthly jurisdictional check-ins, and then we're going to have these 3 community-wide meeting. Well, we are having the first launches right now. So we are so happy that Pierce County Coalition, that you all are hosting the community-wide gathering. So this is our first launch meeting. We're going to come back and do some workshopping with you all, and then we're going to come back and talk about implementation. So we're really looking forward to this partnership. And then we'll also be doing quarterly COC board check-ins. And we are partnering with Liza to figure out right now how we can make sure that this work is connected with the unified regional approach work too, so we don't have all of these different silos developing. So I'm gonna shut my big mouth now and pass it to Garrett.
Time for another poll. All right, this is to get your brain going. I'm going to be embarrassed when I do this poll because I put a bunch of places that I've heard about pain points in the coordinated entry system. And so I thought it might be helpful for you all to rank. And so this is my ask. You can check as many of these boxes as you want, but I really want you to check 3 areas that you feel like are significant pain points. And so I'm going to put this poll out there. So this is you as someone experiencing homelessness. This is you working with clients. This is you as a community member. What are some areas that you think are really challenging in coordinated entry that if I was only focusing on 3, that I'd like you to mark those? Obviously, I put them all in as pain points, but difficult to schedule an appointment, right? So again, we're talking about coordinated entry assessment and the diversion stuff. Difficult to travel to an assessment. Assessments aren't available when you need them. I'm thinking about after hours. I'm thinking weekends. Providers are difficult to trust. And that really is an interesting one that I hear a lot, oddly enough. Assessments don't result in housing, right? That's kind of the main complaint with coordinated entry is that you do it and you don't get much out of it. You never hear from coordinated entry after the assessment. The assessors don't really understand my personal situation. Assessors won't travel to us. Assessors ask too many uncomfortable questions, and the assessment takes too long. So again, this is me putting out some things that I've heard over a decade working with coordinated entry. I'm sure there's other ones. You could put them in chat if you want. But really, this next section is about you guys talking about, and we can talk about things that are going amazing with coordinated entry, and please don't screw that up. Things that are a challenge with coordinated entry. And this can be from a client's perspective. This can even be from a provider perspective, right? Oh, I've done coordinated entry for 5 years, and it drives me nuts that I have to do X because it has this challenge for my clients. So I've said all that. I don't see a lot happening. So I'm going to share what people said here, and then we're hopefully going to get some interesting comments. So a lot of people, assessments don't result in housing. Yeah. I don't know if Mike Yoder's on the call, but we were talking one time and he's like, I'm not sure Associated Ministries leading coordinated entry was a great decision for us because we've been a because coordinated entry feels disappointing and that you connect to it and don't get anyway. Assessments not available when needed. The next most highest coming in with I never hear from coordinated entry after the assessment. And then next is difficult to schedule an assessment. So anyway, we're going to take this information, but what we really want to do now is get some hands up and some comments into the chat. We talked a little bit about doing small breakout groups, but I thought, I'd love responses from other people, especially in chat. So as we've talked about who we want to work with, so we still want to see that coming in the chat. Now we want to talk about, what are some concerns you have? So again, who's missing, concerns you have, things you like. All these little boxes here. How
And
do
I
do
see
all this?
Sarah's hand up. Sarah, and then Dr. Jarvie.
Am I unmuted?
You
Yes,
are.
ma'am.
Okay, one of the things that I've seen, and this is from things I've witnessed as well as things I've experienced. Due to physical, visual, hearing impairment, or any other kind of disability, people have difficulty filling out the applications. What is needed is either employees or volunteers, or even just somebody part-time to assist in helping fill out applications. That's why you got a lot of individuals who can't get into housing because they can't write out the applications. I was fortunate I had somebody to assist me, but I'm one of the fortunate ones, and I know I'm fortunate. Some would even say that I should count my blessings, which I do. And I know that there's a lot of us out there, there's a lot of people out there who do not have the assistance, or who they say, oh, you've got too much sight, you don't qualify for assistance. And just because you got sight doesn't mean you can use it. I mean, look at all the folks out there with dyslexia. My dad has had dyslexia for 70 years and he still hasn't been able to overcome it. Back then, they didn't teach you how to overcome dyslexia. They just said deal with it.
Sarah,
And
your lived experience is so important, and it sounds like you more recently went through the coordinated entry system. Is that right?
I don't know if I went through the coordinated entry system. I'm not sure how that went. All I know is I was calling apartments. I was calling apartment after apartment looking for a place to live, and I'm like, all I kept getting was, sorry, we're full. Sorry, we're full. Oh, we don't have a wheelchair accessible apartment. And being put on a waiting list when there was one little squeaky apartment available. I was on the waiting list for like 2 different apartment complexes, but this is the first one that came up because I knew that in 2014, I knew the guy wasn't paying his mortgage. We were getting the letters because the guy wasn't paying his mortgage. And so the place where I was subletting at the time, I
And
I
Who-
tried to get out of there in time, but there wasn't enough time. I was on a waiting list and I had to live in an inaccessible facility,
I
which
see.
I don't blame the person for. However, it is frustrating.
And Sarah, can I interject? What was the agency that did your assessment? Because it sounded like you had a very positive experience and you had support. Do you remember the name of the agency?
I don't, well, I applied through Tahoma Vista Village
Okay.
for my
Okay.
for this apartment. I had a rough time because I didn't know that the what year did the what coali what do they call it? I'm sorry, I forgot the name of it. The coordinated entry. What year did that start?
Oh my, it's been some time. I,
See,
2015 to
somebody
2016 was
must
the
have helped me
soft
with
launch.
it. I bet you Chandra submitted
okay.
my application to it. She's
Okay.
no longer able to work with us, and I miss her a lot, but I
Well,
believe she was the one that she was the only one that came out to my house besides the reporters.
wow, that's amazing because some of the things that we heard, like someone coming to your house, helping you with the assessment, those are the things that we really want to learn from too, what works well as well. So we will definitely reach out to you, Sarah, and
There
thank
are
you.
so many people out there, and that's why I involved my job coach, because this is the kind of thing I want to do as a job. And I'm not looking for
Mm.
a full-time job. I want to help you guys to help other people.
Oh,
Because just like, let me give you an example. I had a great experience. A gal named Mary Via, she tried to get some assistance, and the program she was working with didn't assist her enough. They got her into a shelter. The shelter didn't work out because they weren't prepared for her people that were blind. So her and her boyfriend decided to leave the shelter. And
hmm.
then shortly after that, she ended up in the hospital with an aneurysm and sepsis, and she didn't make it out.
Wow.
So
I'm
just because, I mean, I'm just saying, just because I had a great time and
right.
weather's here, wish you were beautiful and all that stuff, it doesn't happen to everybody. And I know that, and I think it hurts.
Thank you, Sarah.
I
We will.
want to be, I want to do anything I can to help you guys. And gosh, look at the time. I'm so sorry. I really do have to leave. We've had a loss I'm a member of Washington Council of the Blind. We've had a very significant loss. And so I'm going to see my family here in a little bit. And I wouldn't be able to do that without support. And I think you guys sent somebody out to help me. So whoever did it, thank you. I'm here because of you.
Sarah, thank you. And we will be reaching out. We're going to be doing some focus groups with people with lived and living experience of homelessness. So maybe you can help us with the
You
planning of
bet.
that. Thank you.
Yeah, Lamont, I'll do anything you need. I will do my best. I do have things going on, but I'll do my best to work within your time. And I can even take days. There are some days I can even like just, switch things around. Things happen.
Yeah.
And I'll be glad to help as best I can. You just let me know. I'm accessible by Zoom. I go where shuttle can go. I can't get him to let me drive, but other than that, who could ask for more?
We'll work through it, Sarah, and thank you
Thank
again.
you, Lamont.
Okay, appreciate you. Take good care.
You take good care.
Yes, ma'am.
Rob, y- you guys got me hooked up into this really cool. Thanks, Rob.
Aw,
Glad you're enjoying it.
I
that's
am. And now
community.
I'll see you guys next week.
Bye-bye, Sarah. Dr. Jarvie, you have the floor.
Gosh, I can't compete with that passion. So I want to bring out another aspect. So I'm not a CE provider, but we require CE, so we're a CE referral. Referral agents who refer people to, and one of the hardest parts for us is motivating people to do it. And I say this because it's a requirement, and sometimes people would rather leave our shelter than go do it. So and even I know that sometimes CE, I think it's from Catholic Community Services will even come out to us, or they do it by phone. And it seems very easy to me to get access to it and to have it. And I think that CE is doing a wonderful job of providing a great service, but it's still difficult to motivate people to go and do it. And so I'm wondering if we need to understand why people feel hesitant. Maybe they feel it's not practical. There's no results. There's no success. There's no effect if they do it. It's just, and if something is just a requirement just to do it, it doesn't make sense to me. You know, if you have to sign your name on this piece of paper and turn this piece of paper in, and it just goes into a file somewhere and it's saved forever and no one ever looks at it, how does that help me? So I'm thinking, how do we motivate people to see the purpose of joining the coordinated entry program?
So, Dr. Jarvie, I just want to make sure we're hearing you correctly. So, when we're doing this work, one of the questions we need to be asking is so that we can understand, why are certain folks hesitant to go through the coordinated entry assessment process? Am I hearing you correctly?
Yes.
Okay. And then we need to address those barriers. Got you. And then I also appreciate what Julie is putting in the chat. Julie, that is such a powerful comment. You mentioned that coordinated entry should be a direct service. And it's really interesting because I'm going to go back a slide here. I think it may not be fully, uh-oh. My computer's doing something weird now. Let's see here. Okay. So when we go back to this slide, if folks can see it, you see how we have supportive services here, the second to the bottom block. So while people are on the by names list or permanent housing queue, they should be receiving supportive services, right? It could be linkages to workforce development. It could be behavioral health. It could be a whole host of things, right? Psychosocial, spiritual, emotional supports. Uh, and then the system navigators are those ones that are supposed to be helping there, right? So we'll be looking at this, Julie, to see how well is this happening, where is this happening well, and how it could be beefed up. And Dr. Jarvie will also be sure to ask folks too, what is the hesitancy, so we could figure that out as well.
Hey, so I have a little follow-up question according to what you just said, supportive services. So if we send somebody to CE and they've completed their process, then shouldn't they have a contact person or a case manager or someone who does provide that supportive service? And so we can ask them, hey, have you finished CE? Who or where is your CE case manager? Shouldn't we have that?
That is the ideal, and I believe that we do have pockets of that, but funding, resources, all these things, and I'm sure Devin and Garrett can add more, but the ideal sense is that you have system navigators that are supporting people while they're on the by names list, with connecting to all of those different services. And so that's one of the things that we're going to be looking at, is to what extent is that happening? Because oftentimes we do hear people say, they get the assessment, they're on the list, they don't hear from anyone, and it's just like a black box for a while. And then, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, but Miss Sharp or Shalana? Is it Shalana? You're unmuted, Shalana. And I might be butchering.
I think Shalana may have an issue with the
Oh,
microphone.
okay. Okay. Well, we'll come back to you, Shalana, or you can also put it in the chat. And let's see, who do we have next? Any other folks wanted to share? This is very, very helpful. Please don't hold back. We're recording this so we can use all of this information that you all are sharing. I see Sally saying the data about the lack of appropriate housing for so many people should be published and used in advocacy. Yes, to push the multiple ways to think about expanding housing. Excellent. Right now, the housing conversation is stuck in the we need to follow the typical state federal funding processes. Sally, you are highly innovative. And we need to be innovative. That's the thing. We have to have an eye towards innovation because there's not enough housing, there's not enough funding, right? But even looking at how could we support people who are on the bindings list? We might have to do some type of group thing where we have peer supports or, we can try to figure things out the best we can while we work on getting more funding and housing. But I love that, Sally. And then Carolyn, Dr. Wise. Hi, Dr. Wise. What options are there to switch case managers, system navigators based on client's desire? Ooh, for a good match. That's excellent. I don't know how that exists currently, if someone's able to speak to that. But I think that's excellent. That's excellent.
So
Carolyn,
sorry,
yes.
I'll just say that came from a small qualitative study that Mike Craw and I and others on the COC Racial Equity Committee sort of organized and did that where the people benefited in the cases where they said they were able to exert some choice and change.
Well, that's excellent, Dr. Wise. Thank you.
It's interesting when we talk a little bit about case management from coordinated entry specialists. It really isn't currently how the program's designed. Case manager can totally jump in on this, but when you're modeling the amount of time, so this is years ago, but I think we average just a couple hours of case management time with a client for each CE specialist. So it's not a deep relationship that goes on for a long time. Just in the way that in the expectations we have of our coordinated entry specialists and the amount of time and the expectations of their productivity it's I think 4.5 it would be like a typical diversion client, but a client not picking diversion usually ends up with a lot less time. And again, by design, so that's not a criticism of the coordinated entry specialists. It's the flow they need to do. And they house a lot of people is the other thing I would toss out. Like we can't break that part. So so far this year, about 750 people have entered housing from the diversion program, right? So that's on target for 1,500 people a year, right? So that's not the referrals to permanent housing programs. That's the diversion, financial assistance, and problem solving that comes out of those conversations. So it has some real strengths, right? Obviously, a lot of weaknesses that we're talking about.
Excellent. And so I believe, Devin, you were unmuted here. Did you have a thought you wanted to share, Devin?
Yeah, in terms of client voice, client choice. So I think there has always been with most agencies, policies that they create based on agency, but they are required to have policies around what a client would do in the case that they had a complaint or there was an issue. But I also think in terms of client voice, client choice, there's a lot of different people that can advocate for someone, including themselves, right? I get emails sometimes and my email address is on the coordinated entry website and someone will say, haven't been successful and I would like some help or I would like to switch, and I'm able to advocate for them and make that happen. So a couple different avenues, I think, to get someone with the right person. And I think it's a really valuable point to bring up because we've been talking a lot in the state or the comprehensive plan to end homelessness about creating an ombuds office, and I think that is going to be in our near future. When I say near, it's probably not tomorrow, but I do think it's in our near future, and I think that'll set folks up for the advocacy that they need when they're seeking services, because that's a missing element, right?
Thank you, Devin, for that. And let's go back to Shalana. Shalana, are you able to unmute?
Third time's a charm. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Oh my goodness. Hallelujah. Anyway, so coming from coordinated entry point of view, Garrett kind of hit the nail right on point, where when we are with a client and putting them per se into priority pool, there's not a lot of, it's more like a touch and go kind of a feel. I always open myself up if a client should have any further questions after me placing them into priority pool, to give them my information so that way they know that they still can contact me if they have any further questions. Another thing I like to tell my clients is, hey, you know, these are the dates that you're going to be put in. This is the date you might be exited out of priority pool. If you feel comfortable with me, you can definitely reach out to me so I can update any information that I need to update and get you back into priority pool. Or I can, you know, if you don't like me, then you are more than welcome to call 211 and reschedule that appointment with another case specialist. So, you know, I try not to just abandon those that might be on priority pool, but we do take a little bit more time with those that we are working with diversion per se. Because we do need that communication with them. We do need documentations to put in their files. We need to, you know, so there's a lot more communication when a client is in diversion compared to like priority pool.
Shalom, that's very helpful.
Yeah. And, you know, wherever the client wants to meet, where I don't mind driving if I have to drive to find them or meet with them, they're more than welcome to come to our office. And now that we have more of a set time of being that the day center is no longer, we have a more set time with somebody downstairs, or we can do over the phone conversations, whichever it is that they feel most comfortable doing is what they want.
And
Is what
Shalana, what's your agency, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, I'm with Catholic Community Services, Family Housing Network.
Nice. And you're a case specialist, right?
I am.
Nice. Well, thank you for your work that you're doing, and you're being proactive. And if I needed a case specialist, I would want one like you. So thank you, Shalana.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
So I'm gonna pick on someone because they put such a I mean, all the comments in the chat have been wonderful, but Sandy, do you have anything additional you want to share regarding your comment that you had put in the chat? You might want to give people, I'm sorry to call on you like this. You could always pass,
No,
but
this
it's
is
so
fine.
important. Yeah.
So I'm actually up here working in the Parkland Spanaway Library. So I actually work directly with the unhoused populations in a position because of all of the access in the library to fax machines, to printers, to computers, where I can actually sit down with people and help them grind through the end tasks. I've also worked for the Tacoma Rescue Mission. I was in their career services, and so I worked with their case managers. I know how they're supposed to work. And again, like they don't have a ton of time to meet with people, and it's nothing derogatory on them because of what they're doing. And a lot of times when people would leave this, like talking to their case manager, they have no idea what they've just heard. It's brand new lingo. Sometimes they're printed a list, they're under a lot of stress. And now like they're supposed to go out and leave the shelter and not actually have a place for them to like relax and then to go and resolve all of their issues. I have had a great amount of success even working with people that had been unhoused for like 10 years when I gave them a peaceful environment, when I gave them and supported them the way that they needed to go through the process. Priority pool can take months and there's like nothing that they're getting in that. So they really need to have a lot of community love that's fed to them during these processes when they're working and getting nothing back, because I'm having them do applications and applications and intakes. And, you know, for every organization, they have to go and do an intake. And so they know what that is. And I can get people like Jake will come to the library if I have people, but it has to be on some type of regular basis. And not everybody, like I'll get someone coming regular and then they get picked up by the police. And so I have my own list because someone had put down that, you know, we need to be able to explain this to people what it is. I actually have a 40-page plus manual that I've been writing for the past 6 months that I print out and I hand to people so that they actually understand when it comes to like coordinated entry, like it has its own sheet and we're going to talk about it, down to like what it means for like the 90 days, the priority pool. Like I'm the only person that I've ever seen that's given them out with something so explicit. And it's like there's only a few organizations that do coordinated entry. So I have it separate than from all of the other ones. So it's just like one page out of 40 pages of resources that they have to know, like the terms. What is rapid rehousing? It's not for singles. And a lot of people don't know that, or they're going to Family of Promise who doesn't do coordinated entry. And I've had people tell me they do, and it's like they don't. They want to, So but then the coordinated entry itself mails a check. And so when I'm working with people on trying to get that, they don't know that the check is being mailed. They have to verify with the homeowner that they're going to accept that end of the process. I had one person get through this whole process and their bank wouldn't accept the check. And then the coordinated entry person didn't want to reissue it and so there's some of these problems that logistically make this a nightmare for everybody involved, from the person who is accepting a voucher, from the person trying to move. The good news is I have helped people successfully even through that. Like one person that Jake actually helped us with, their family found them because we were able to put them in a position. They actually started going back to church, and this person had been in house for 7 years, and their family found them and took them back with them. So it's the disconnect is there, and I use it as a tool. So I normally will look for housing with them before we even apply for coordinated entry. When I send people to Jake, I'm telling him they do relocation, this is where they're going, and I have everything planned with them because the people don't have enough excess to waste. Like they're in survival mode. They don't like have a lot of capacity. They are doing really the best they can, and they become exhausted really quickly. Like the shelters are kicking people out at 6:30 in the morning. They have to leave. So regardless of your sleep time, that's your day. And then you have to go back at 6:30 and then check in. And the facilities themselves, while they're great, they can still be stressful for people. There's no quiet spaces for them to do this work unless they get on a bus and drive. It's like an hour just to get to me from the Tacoma Rescue Mission. So, and they don't have bus passes. So it's only the few people that can actually get the buses. And I'm the only library in Pierce County with a pier. So in King County, we're in several of the libraries, but this is a pilot program that we're launching. So Lakewood Library might be getting another peer, and the peer work is we're the ones that can actually grind the end with the people every day. Like I'm in the library Tuesday through Saturday, and I'm meeting with people constantly, new people and all of that. So it really changes. And right now, the shelters aren't taking people that are chronically unhoused, only if you haven't been in a shelter for the first time. So I have a lot of new people coming in, and sorry, that's a lot. I didn't mean to talk so much.
No, no, Sandy, I can listen. Everything you're saying is so rich and helpful, and just really piggybacks with some of the things with Shalana. And listening to you, you could tell that you embody what's called trauma-informed care. We hear people talk about trauma-informed care a lot, but it's in your DNA, like everything that you're saying. And I hope that if you and Sandy, if you and Shalana are comfortable, if you don't mind putting your contact information in the chat, and others that you would like for me and Garrett and our team, that you have more in-depth things that you would like to share, if you don't mind putting your name and contact information in the chat. But we really going to reach out to you, Sandy and Shalana, because when we think about the supportive services and what that looks like while people are on that by names list, the things that you both have shared have just been so powerful. But everyone, if you have something that you would like us to have a one-on-one with you or participate in a focus group, if you could put your name and contact information in the chat, and we'll be sure to reach out to you. And I know it's 10:27, so I'm going to hand it over to Devin and then back to Garrett. And thank you all so much. This has been very, very helpful.
I'm sorry, I'll be very, very quick. So Sandy, I would like to connect with you because I think there's a couple points that aren't policy that you had brought up. They're actually against policy. And so I'd like you to kind of be aware of what those points are so that you know what the expectations are of coordinated entry providers. So if for some reason you're getting told incorrect information, you can be able to advocate or contact me to say, hey, I worked with this agency and they said I couldn't do X, Y, and Z, but I know that I can. Can you support me in some way? Would that work? Okay, I'll put my email in the chat, Sandy.
Thank you, Devin. And so I'm going to pass it to Garrett to kind of wrap us up and see if folks have any final concerns. But if you all want to reach out to us, Courtney's not here, but she's like our main project manager, air traffic control person. And so here is Courtney's email and her phone number. And so if you ever want to reach out to us, please do not hesitate. And we'll put this in the chat. And then Garrett, back to you.
Thanks. And again, we want as much input as we can get. We want to come to you. So if you've got a group or you just want to talk to us, that would be great. Some of the things that are going to be fun, I think, to try to navigate are, like we have a very complex homeless system, and like there has to be ways to make, and we like it complex in a way. Like we like it diverse. We like it to work for lots of different kinds of people, right? We like to have lots of different coordinated entry agencies so that you can pick one that works well for you. But that makes it a complex system. And so, we've got some real opportunities clearly to make the system easier to navigate while still keeping all of the diversity that really benefits our clients. Yeah, and I guess I just want to drive home that we're looking at ways to help more people exit homelessness, right? Like the end product of this isn't a bunch of bureaucratic work or a bunch of plans that sit on the shelf, right? Our goal is that more people have a shorter duration of homelessness, that they don't return to homelessness, and that they exit homelessness as quickly as possible. So that's the driving goal of any work to improve systems, is that we're serving our clients better. So excited for you guys to reach out, excited to come back and talk about like the feedback we're getting and to get some more, right? So we're collecting information, we're going to come up with ideas, you're going to respond to them, we're going to take that and together we're going to make something better. Like I've got a lot of heart and interest in the coordinatory system, and I'm excited to see what we all together can serve our community better with. And yeah, love. So we're going to go through this chat. Anything else you want to stick in? We got another 29 minutes or however long we stay together. Did I see your hand up, Rosemary? No.
I think she was clapping.
Oh, a clap. I'll take a clap.
I was just clapping. I wanted to see what it would look like. I don't clap too often that way.
So thanks, everybody. Thanks, Pierce County, for making this a priority. And I hope some real good can come out of it.
All right. So thank you so much for spending that amount of time with us kicking off this project this morning. And yeah, hopefully the chat is, there was a lot of rich information in the chat throughout this conversation. So hopefully that's useful as well. And as Garrett knows all too well, come back whenever we can be useful. Thank you so much. So let's shift to our regular updates from government agencies to start the last 28 minutes of today's meeting. First up, do we have anybody on the call from the city of Tacoma to offer updates today? All right, so I think that's a no. So let's shift over to updates from Pierce County Human Services. Devin?
Hello again, everyone. Most of my updates have been part of conversations we've already had. So the first one was the good news about the right-of-way program, that we were able to house those folks in a very dangerous setting over on Wiley Avenue. There was a lot of complexities to the folks there, and I'm not going to share in detail, but I just want to say they had some vulnerabilities that were significant. And so I think that's a win for the community. The other thing I wanted to fill folks in on is today is the Implementation Advisory Board meeting from 1 to 3. We're going to be finalizing recruitment today, not final, because it has to go before the executive and the council for approval. But we did finalize the list of folks that the IAB members have voted on to clear through to the next round to be approved. So that's super exciting. We're going to be talking about the feedback session that was held on the 19th of July and just what the themes were that we heard. We're going to do a short 2-on-1 update that has been pushed off the agenda a couple different times for other conversations. And then, of course, we're going to be talking about the comprehensive plan to end homelessness amendments that we are fully invested in going through right now. We've been collecting a lot of community engagement, we have an ad hoc committee of the IAB that's been really entrenched in giving us some great strategies to apply to the goals. Just a lot of hard work has been going on. And so we're going to give an update there. The other thing I wanted to mention is YHDP is in full effect. I think I mentioned this last week, but our coordinated community plan is submitted to HUD and done. We're going to be launching the 100-day challenge again. We had initially lost funding through that because it was HUD funded and they reinstated it. There's going to be a really big community event on October 3rd. Don't worry, I'll share all the information as we develop it. Love to see you all there. There were quite a few folks on the coalition that attended the first one. And as folks may or may not know, this is a youth and young adult project, and it's in the amount of about $3.5 million, and it's going to bring more housing to our youth and young adults in the community. So it's very exciting. The only other thing I have, actually, I think that's it, and happy to take questions if there are any.
Yeah, anyone with questions for Devin? I guess one I would have is if you could drop the link after this to the IAB meeting this afternoon, that'd be helpful for folks who want to attend. It's from 1 to 3, and there is public comment at the end. So it's always a good thing to be able to be in touch with the work that's being done by that group. But I'm biased because I'm on the IAB. So any other questions for Devin? All right, let's move on to updates from our friends at the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department. I see Isaiah on screen.
Yes, I am here. Today is actually pretty short, not a whole lot of updates from our end. The first update for transparency is that our doctor, our MD, Joel Alvarez, is no longer part of the team. But that does not limit or reduce the amount of services that we're able to provide clients or patients. So our ARNP is able to do everything a doctor is able to do and is working eventually 3 times in September. So she'll be covering all of that, and we still have our registered nurse doing wound care, and of course me doing outreach. So just an update there. And the other update is that we'll be working with the HOPE team, hopefully. So the HOPE team, as folks know, is under Tacoma Fire Department. They have a field team, and we're going to be doing some cooperation and collaboration with them to learn more about their work. So those are the only 2 updates that I have today.
Great, thank you, Isaiah. Any questions for Isaiah? All right, not seeing any. How about any updates from the Department of Emergency Management of Pierce County? It's possible that they are no longer on the call. I know that they are monitoring the weather. Just briefly, I'll mention still supposed to be in the low 80s today. So, but there is no moderate heat risk in the county. The next time it looks like we could have heat risk cropping up again would be next weekend. So there's that. And let's shift over to do, I know Sally Perkins needs to leave soon. Sally, if we do an advocacy update now, will you still be able to talk it through?
Okay, so for the city this week, the study session will focus on Initiative Measure 2, which is the Workers' Rights Initiative. They're still trying to figure out what to do with it. There are a number of questions about how it impacts certain employers. They're also going to have a committee of the whole at the same time where the council members are going to talk about what competencies they want in the new city manager. They're both scheduled for noon. Obviously, they're both not going to happen at the same time, but Tuesday's an interesting day. If you're kind of a government nerd, that's the day to be following that stuff. The Government Performance and Finance Committee meets Tuesday at 10:30, and they're going to be talking about, or Tuesday at 10 o'clock, they're going to be talking about the multifamily tax exemption. And I know a number of you have opinions about that. Councilmember Hines is going to be leading a discussion about the MFTE and how, how it has been successful or not, et cetera. So that might be of interest to those of you who are interested in that particular item. And then I don't have any notes on the city council meeting, which leads me to believe there's probably not anything specifically of interest to the coalition on that agenda on Tuesday evening. For the county, the Monday study session, there's going to be a presentation on a property tax overview, and that may give some information about how property tax revenues are going, and that might give an indication about some budget challenges or opportunities for the future. So if you like study sessions, Monday at noon is that one. And then on Tuesday, Health and Human Services Committee meets at 9:30. This is the county. There will be a report on the work that's been done based on the funds generated by the Maureen Howard Fund. and there will be a presentation about the housing and related services 6-year advisory expenditure and implementation plan. So that sounds like a really long title, but the information actually sounds pretty interesting. And the packet for that information, if you get on the county's website to look it up, may have more details. So you might want to download the packet. And then at the council meeting, there will be a proclamation about Overdose Awareness Month. I know a lot of us are really, really concerned about the catastrophic impact of drugs on the people we're trying to help. So that might be a useful thing to hear. And then the council priorities for the 26-27 budget will also be discussed, and Mary Connolly's got more. Awesome.
I just also wanted to add that at the Health and Human Services Committee on Tuesday, the update to the 6-year expenditure plan for Maureen Howard funds, that's going to be a resolution that's going to have a hearing. So there will be like a vote by the committee to recommend it to council potentially. And the packet was just posted, so I'll drop that in the chat if you want to take a look. It has information on the performance, as Sally said, like a biennial performance report for the Maureen Howard Fund, as well as that resolution that will be heard. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Mary. And thank you, Sally. I'm glad you were able to stay on the meeting long enough to do the advocacy update, because that's a lot of work. So you're appreciated. All right. So next up on our agenda, I skipped over the update on the Pierce County Comprehensive Plan to End Homelessness. And the reason for that is that it was mostly covered by Devin. However, there is something I wanted to drop in the chat, which is a link to a News Tribune story that posted this morning, starring lots of information from Garrett Nyland, as well as members of the Pierce County Council, talking about the funding issues related to homelessness and creative ways that we could think about filling the funding gap to meet the actual need for homelessness services across the county. So Garrett, I don't know how you feel about how it came out, but that might be something that folks can take a moment to read if they can access it. And like I said, it just posted this morning. So Garrett, anything you would add?
Actually, I think it's a pretty good article. You know, all the ways we have to bring revenue in suck, right?
They do.
And that's kind of the moral of the story. Like, wouldn't it be cool if we could do all those things? Then all the politicians being like, yeah, that would be cool, but reality exists. And so we've got to live in the world we have. But if you want to talk about, you know, I guess my only point would be, of all the people that connect to coordinated entry, I'm going to tie it all back in. 10% of them get a referral, right? We don't have enough permanent housing programs, and it's money. It's money that stops it. We're not inefficient, and those things, programs sit unused. They all get used. It's just money, and that's the struggle. You know, you can stop people from becoming homeless, and that's a noble pursuit. But we've got people homeless right now, and we need to address it. And so, yeah. Good article, though, I thought. I thought it was well written, covered all the points.
Great. And I did just drop a PDF version. Hopefully it's displayed well, that I grabbed earlier today. I think that's going to work. Yes, it doesn't have all the pictures in the PDF, but has the text. So sorry you'll miss all the ads, but dang it. All right, so that leaves us with time to do some good trouble announcements and share any success stories that folks have. So I see Jan Runbeck's hand shoot up. Jan, what do you have to share?
Yes, July 30th, there were 2 successful campaigns in this county, and success is due mainly to the great working relationship that this coalition sponsors among all the different partners. So on July 30th, the VA had a big fair in the parking lot of Pierce County Human Services. From here at Nativity House, 5 out of the 6 folks that went got immediate vouchers. They left the fair that day not only with lunch but with a housing voucher. So that was Tammy. Everybody remember Tammy from FOB Hope? She's the one that coordinated the veterans from this particular shelter, or this particular site. So that was really wonderful. Also on that day, we had a great public health campaign. It was the hepatitis C screening event at 3 different locations. Thanks to all the outreach workers and to everybody that was involved. It was spearheaded by Dr. Tom Lang, a physician with the free clinic at Tacoma Needle Exchange and outside partners. So over 160 people got screened with a significant positivity rate. That's a different thing. We're taking care of those folks, but it was a great event and highly successful as a cooperative partnership.
Thank you, Jan. And Jason, I see your hand up as well.
Yeah, I think that had a big thing this week is we've closed on all our funding for our affordable housing project, and some of you may have got it. I'll send it out to the group, but we're gonna have a big groundbreaking ceremony on August 28th for the 26 units of affordable housing. But for us, we're gonna start construction probably on August 11th. So it's a big exciting day for us and week for us. So thanks for everybody who was a part of that and pushing that through. So thank you.
Awesome. That is great news. Thank you, Jason. So anyone else with updates or things for the good of the order that they would like to share with the 51 of us who remain in the meeting? Yeah, Shalana, go ahead.
So yesterday and so the 30th and the 31st, Catholic Community Services veterans side of our organization was able to go down to Pierce County to do a lot of engaging with veterans. And I, for the first time, was able to be a part of that, which was super awesome. I was able to at least house, just on the CE side of it, 2 veterans who is going to be moving in to their new home on Monday. And then had the chance to do like over 30 screenings and conversations with others.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that good news. Anyone else? All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for hanging in there on a very data-rich, conversation-rich meeting today. And we'll hope to provide similar useful content next week. If you have an interest in helping us plan for next week's meeting, there'll be a small group of us who stay on this call, and after about a 5-minute break, we'll do some planning. For everyone else, I want to wish you a safe and happy weekend, and we look forward to seeing you next Friday. Thank you.